Greetings and hello, my name is Dr. Mark Perez, and me and my colleagues are presenting our roundtable discussion on cross-cultural teaching in health and physical education experiences from 4 study abroad programs. Let me have my colleagues introduce themselves.
Okay. Hi, I'm Naoki Suzuki from Tokyo Gakuin University. I'm an associate professor and teach the pedagogy of physical education. I'm also a coordinator of our project in Japan side. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Stephen Ward. I'm the program director for physical education and school health here at Central Washington University. And I've worked both in the Guam program and the Ireland program, which we're going to describe now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanjin Liang, and I'm also a faculty from Central Washington University with my specialty in physical education, teacher education.
Let's begin.
So to start with, we have several programs that we have found have benefited our physical education and school health teachers in terms of cross-cultural teaching. We want to be able to prepare what we call culturally competent teachers, as this is an important objective in our field. Service learning is a very viable option for this process, as it creates very authentic experiences in the real world, but yet provides opportunities for our students to have input and ownership in the program. This can help them with their critical reflection process, as well as their civic engagement, and a reciprocity where we give back to different communities instead of just taking opportunities for our students.
So I'd like to start off with sharing the first study abroad experience, and it kind of is dated. Starting in 2010 to 2018, we started taking students, Dr. Ward and I, to the island of Guam, where I'm from. And that was the inception of the program that really started all of the future programs that we are conducting at CWU and TGU. And so when we look here, these are the actual 8 or 7 years that we went: 2010, 11, 12, 14, 2015, 2016, and most recently 2018. Because of the pandemic, it halted our recent travel, but altogether we've had 81 students over the years, and it's been a very fruitful experience. So if you're not familiar where the island of Guam is, here's a map here. And so the students do travel from Washington State at Central Washington University, and they go a total of 13 hours to get to the island of Guam. So where is Guam, and what is it? Well, it's an island that's only 36 miles long, and the population about 170,000 people. Indigenous people there have their own indigenous language, but it is very, it's a US territory, so very Americanized. So we have the best of both cultures. So while we were on Guam, we did partner with the University of Guam, and this is where the students traveled to. And we did stay at the university dorms and partnered with a few programs at the university. One of the key things that students did while they were on this 2-week service learning experience was doing local outreach, and the age groups run the gamut from people as young as 5 to 95. And so it was a great experience for the students to engage in the variances of ages. Within that 2-week service learning experience, students taught health and PE lessons to 2 summer camps. They also conducted these health fairs that were a culminating capstone experience at these 2 venues. They even had lunch and learns with the adult senior citizens. They call them the manamko. And so it was a great way for them to learn what it was like to live on Guam and to have what are the health and wellness experiences for people who grew up in Guam. And then we also did some conversation partner activities with local visiting Korean students and Taiwanese students. While they were there, they also taught health and PE, partnering with the University of Guam Sports Adventure Camp. And so here we are, the students working with the young kids who are there for the day camp. They also infused health education lessons. We can see here 2 students just talking about nutrition here. We see them also teaching concepts like body image and stress management. On the physical education side, we work with these young kids here as well, and they were teaching them physical education concepts, physical activity for even the young age. So they ran the gamut of working with younger kids all the way to the middle school age kids. Also, we conducted the specific health fairs at both agencies, and here's an example of a booth here where they're thinking their drink is what the activity is. Here's a physical activity station here, obstacle course. More activities engaging the local kids, and here's something on nutrition. We even engaged the local counselors there, so the college students were able to interact and just collaborate with the locals that were their age. Moving further on, teaching at a low socioeconomic camp. This was another one that the students reached out and went and worked with those students, teaching other things like self-esteem. Conflict resolution was another theme here. So we did infuse health and wellness as well as physical education. And so here's that final group that just kind of showed these smiling faces and how these students really enjoyed the work that Central Washington students have done. Also, the English Adventure program at the University of Guam is where we did collaborate with the university and worked with these students from Korea, and not only engaging them as conversation partners, but taking them on like local adventures. This is a hike into a freshwater cave, and here are the students, Central students, along with Korean students, enjoying the natural environment. Here's a night market where they're engaging the local foods and wares, and then even local dancing. So they are not only learning health and physical education and teaching it there, but they're also learning the culture and engaging in it. Here are just a few more photos of just some of the teaching that the CW students did and engaged in at the camps. And they just engage in other fun stuff like going hiking, jumping off waterfalls here and engaging some of the local environment. Here's a beach camping experience that the students engaged in, and they actually met with the locals who live here, which are family members of mine. And this was one of their greatest experiences too, is just camping out in the environment, taking them fishing. Here you can see the groups spearfishing at night and the local catch that they had here. And then just seeing Spain occupy Guam for many years, and here's some relics that were left behind, like this old Spanish bridge and what have you. And then of course there's Polynesian dancing. And so this was such an overall great experience for the students. We are planning to take students again this summer, but the students reference this in their resumes as they find jobs, and it has helped them. So now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Dr. Stephen Ward, who will talk about our Ireland study abroad experience.
So the Ireland study abroad experience developed from what we learned in Guam. We published an article in 2017 that talked about the cultural competence our teachers developed and how utilizing service learning can be beneficial to our students in situations outside of normal schools. Traditionally, we put our students in our program into 4 practicums where they go into the schools. But what Dr. Perez and I and Dr. Pratt found, who also helped us create the Ireland experience, was that there's benefits to not being in school in terms of creativity and in terms of ownership. The students get a lot more input in what they're going to do, and they're able to understand sort of a problem-solving type of activity where they can see a need and they can utilize skills from their own to create an opportunity to help students or communities. Okay, next slide. So our previous opportunity led us to the idea of taking students who want to be teachers or work with kids to a different environment and create a partnership. So we went for 2016, 17, 18, and 19, and we're hoping to go back since we weren't able to go in 2020 because of the, and 2021 because of the COVID experience and the lockdown. But we've taken over 40 people to Ireland because in Ireland, we found a need and a partnership. Project Fund Direction is a program in Ireland that's a nonprofit that provides opportunities for young inner city girls to have opportunities for physical literacy. And one of the things in Ireland that happens is there's not as many opportunities to be physical in terms of sports and activities for girls as there are for boys because of the way their culture is oriented and because of their system of clubs. And so basically, by the time you get old enough to qualify for some of the clubs that are supported by the state, you don't have the skills necessary to get there. So Kieran Duffy, one of our colleagues who started Project Fund Direction, actually partnership with us to find out if our students who want to become physical education and school health teachers could provide opportunities for his girls in the summer. He runs his program year round, 3 to 4 times a week. And he offers an opportunity where our students come in during the summer and they're able to teach basically summer camp experiences. Next. So this study abroad experience focuses on 2 things: providing opportunities to teach, having a reciprocal arrangement with a local organization. In Guam, we partnered with the University of Guam. In Ireland, as I said, we partnered with Project Fund Direction, but also with Dublin City University, who provided us housing at a steep discount, as well as working with Dr. Maura Coulter, who is one of the physical education professors, health people there. She's our counterpart in Dublin. So the idea was, again, to create this reciprocity. We are not going in suggesting that there's anything that's broken, but rather we're having an asset-based approach. These girls, young girls in Dublin have assets that we can foster rather than a problem that we're going to fix. The problem is actually with not a lack of opportunities for them to experience physical literacy opportunities. So what our solution then is to take our students who are in various stages. We have some beginning students who've never had many PE classes. We have some elementary education students who may have had very little teaching physical education experience. And we have our veteran students who have gone through all of the pedagogy and content for the physical education part. And we basically put them together and have a partnership where we work together as a group to share our knowledge with these inner city girls. We also spend quite a bit of time with cultural immersion because there are many differences between Ireland and the US, language being one of them, using a similar language, but with different meanings of words, and also just having different backgrounds. So our students get an opportunity to experience a new culture in an immersion setting where they're actually living there, eating Irish food at night, going around different cultural experiences in museums and history lessons, as well as Guinness Factory and other tours. We also do weekend trips to other parts of Ireland where we learn more about the culture and just see some of the different sites, as well as our final 7-day tour where we do a bed and breakfast tour of the southern and western part of Ireland. So they get a real chance to go to some of the Gaelic regions, which are places where they speak Irish still. And a lot of the people will understand the Irish language and speak it. So our students are going to get a chance to hear that. Next. So again, the idea behind this was a way to work in non-traditional formats, but also to infuse, as I said before, this idea of cultural diversity into what we do. Next. And these teaching experiences happen at several different places, and it depends upon the number of students that we take with us as to how many places we can serve. But typically, we've been able to serve at 5 different camps throughout Dublin. East Wall, which is a youth facility that's in a sort of a lower socioeconomic status kind of area of Dublin, that used to be along the docks back when Dublin was a city that was primarily fed by some of the dock workers as part of the major source of income for many people in the city. Belseskin Reception Center is a place that was sort of a refugee center for people throughout the EU seeking help. So this is really great opportunity for our students to know people from all over the world, because very rarely can you ever have an opportunity to teach kids who are from 5 or 6 different places, including South America, Europe, Eastern Europe, Africa, and parts of Asia. So that's just a tremendous experience. O'Connell School is more of the traditional Irish school, and this is one of the oldest still functioning schools in Ireland. So we get an opportunity to see that both culturally as well as working with kids. And then Tallaght Community Center is a place that is sort of a relocation center, sort of a suburb of Dublin that was kind of developed. Luckily, we were also able to be contacted with the Dyspraxia Association of Ireland, so our students are able to work and provide opportunities for students with special needs, and how that differs in Ireland as opposed to the US schools. So as I mentioned before, most of the students that we have are pre-service teachers, made up of physical education, elementary education, recreation, and special education majors. Occasionally, we have students come into our program who are just interested in the Irish culture and or working with youth. So we've had business people, film studies, and communication students who actually just wanted to go and experience Ireland, but they wanted to give back at the same time while they were doing it. And they really enjoyed the sense of reciprocity. And because they were able to work as part of a group amongst our students, the fact that they weren't physical education or elementary teachers wasn't a hindrance. They were actually able to bring things from their own life, whether it be one of them was a cheerleader, so she taught cheer. One of them was a dance person who brought that experience in. So one of the benefits of this service learning is our students bring their strengths into our program and combine them together in order to serve. So a typical day starts out in the morning. We get up from in the dorms and we have breakfast, and of course we have coffee, which is an important part of every breakfast, as we all know. So the very first thing we do is we eat, we get together, we talk about it, and then we go to our different locations. So we break our group when we had 17, for instance, we were able to break up into smaller groups of 5 or 6 and send them out to different sites. So typically this program has 2 professors or more, people who are going to be supervising the sites that they're at, because we want to make sure that our students are prepared, but also be there in case they need us for anything. So typically in case Dr. Paris would go to one site, I would go to a different site, and Kieran would be at the third. We basically would teach primarily physical education, but thanks to Dr. Paris's influence, we were also able to do health programs. Nutrition was particularly wanted and sought after in Ireland, as a lot of these girls not only did not have access for physical literacy, their knowledge of what healthy foods and things like that was also, they would just eat it up. So no pun intended there. As well as just being able to share some of the other aspects of health that they were interested in. And so typically our day was 8:30 to 12. One of the benefits was eating lunch with the students. So we would have, we'd bring in our food and they got to see what they eat. We got to talk about the students, and I was fascinated by the conversation back and forth about the students wanting to know more about Americans, and Americans wanting to know more about the students. So typically the morning and the early afternoon was spent at the camp, and in the afternoons they would have free time. Our students would have free time and excursions. So we plan a lot of excursions throughout the city to learn more, walking history tours, visiting Trinity College, walking on there's a boat tour that we do throughout Dublin where local guides will talk about cities as they're cruising around Dublin Bay and some of the sounds and rivers, including the River Liffey. There's also the Epic Museum, which talks about the Irish hunger and some of the sad parts of our Irish history. And so we also give the students free time, and they were allowed to go on their own. Dublin City University is very central, and it's really close to a city hub line. So you're able to ride a bus and trains and just about anywhere you want to in Dublin. So we had our students learn to move throughout the city on their own and explore Dublin at their own in a safe way. And then on the weekends, we would travel to other cities and teach in some cases. Kilkenny is a really famous city, as the picture there shows, where King of England would stay, and the Lord Ormond, who was it was potentially going to be the capital of Ireland at one point, but then more centered on Dublin became the capital. We actually go to Limerick during our second weekend, and we teach at a camp there. So there's a camp there for young inner city kids. And we basically then completed with our 6-day tour of Ireland. Next. So our teaching facilities include most places we go to in the cities are schools with either an indoor area and an outdoor area called a pitch. And so our students were able to kind of have some similarities in terms of equipment that they understood that, as well as the facilities. Next. And again, we found both in Guam and Ireland that the cultural awareness is more meaningful firsthand. The idea of living somewhere, and because when they're in Ellensburg, they go to a school, they go home, they're done. They're back in their regular life. And so oftentimes if there's something that happens at the school, they forget about it, they go with their friends, they go out and do whatever they're normally going to do. Here in Ireland or in Guam, they're all together in one spot. And they're a partnership. So many students on these trips are going to each other's weddings and still hanging out with each other. And I see them on Facebook and other social media platforms still in contact. It's a very powerful, immersive experience that we can translate and use for good, as they really get a sense of who they're teaching when they're living in an environment that's not traditionally what they're used to. Next. So the benefits for our students are basically, other than being able to travel, which has its own inherent benefits, this adds to their professional portfolio. When principals ask, hey, have you worked with kids? They can say, yes, I've worked with kids on multiple continents and in different areas, and I've helped create a program from the ground up. Because as I said, one of the things that of our service learning that Dr. Paris and I really believe in is that it's their student experience. We want to get the most we can and the best we can out of them, rather than just give them a traditional cookie cutter kind of experience. Differentiate themselves from the crowd, and again, potential side trips to learn even more.
Okay, now we're going to thank you, Dr. Ward. We're going to transition now to Dr. Suzuki as he shares about the exchange programs with Tokyo Gakugei University and Central Washington University.
Okay, so we have developed a program for Tokyo Gakugei University students and Central Washington University students to interact and learn from each other for a 6-week period. The program is unique in that it is a continuum of learning in Japan and learning in the United States. Dr. Liang so explained how this program was initiated.
All right. Well, thank you for everyone, and thank you, Dr. Suzuki and my colleagues' previous presentations about the first two study abroad program at Central Washington University. And I'm going to share some really good experiences with the Asian universities, in particular in Japan. So we actually get to know each other, me and Dr. Suzuki, and we get to know each other from the Shape America conference back in 2015, because we all interested in the same teaching model, which is the teaching game for understanding. And also we are dedicated for physical education, teacher education research. So, and we just continue our talk and through some research collaborations, and we continue on and participate in the different world conferences, such as the ISEP, and which is the physical education, teacher education in the higher education. So, and that enable us to keep our relationship and also continue on our research, in particular for teacher education and the physical education. Next slide, please. So, after some initial talk, and my thoughts is I would like to have some cultural exchange program for both universities between Tokyo Gakugei and Central Washington University. And we initialized the talk with our former dean, and then also have connect with our international office between the Central Washington University and Tokyo Gakugei University. So, and then we start our initial talk in both Japan and also in state of Washington. So finally, and we got this program implemented just right before our COVID. And I think we are pretty lucky and have, I mean, all the Japanese students to come over and have a really good 1-week experience with the local community and Central Washington universities and the other entities in the city of Ellensburg.
Okay, so the purpose of this our program was that both students understand the Japanese and the U.S. educational systems and sports coaching. The goal was also to consider one's own physical education teaching through experiences in different cultures. Thus, through the experience of teaching in different cultures, The students reflected more deeply on their teaching and refined their teaching methods. Okay, next. Okay, so many of participants were intended to become teachers, although we are not exclusively the physical education students. I think it was a positive experience to learn with students who teach other subjects. Okay, next. So first, CW students from the US visited Japan. So many of TGU students and CW students stayed in the same accommodations, living together and learning together. Okay, next. Teams were made up of a mixture of TGU and CW students. They spent much of their time at the school. The teams then had the experience of coming up lesson plan and actual teaching at the school, and repeated the experience of reflecting on and teaching. As students with different perspectives worked, okay, yes, worked together to overcome language barriers. They learned deeply through increased collaboration. Collegiality, okay, collegiality and cross-cultural understanding. Okay, next, so CW side.
Thank you, Dr. Suzuki. And it's a great to now the novelty of the program was now the students all traveled together, the CW students and the TGU students, and they all rode on the same plane together and came to Ellensburg, Washington to engage in this community partnership, which really provided a lot of sustainability because we're seeing lots of fruits of our labors from that experience. So there are 4 community partnerships with Tokyo Gakugei University, Central Washington University, Ellensburg Community, and the Ellensburg Christian School. So here we start to see some of the connections with the university itself. Here's Dr. Ward engaging with the students and having them share a little bit with his students as well. And we have a typical collaboration. We call it a PESH mesh, which is basically physical education school health students who get to know each other with each cohort, but we also integrated the TGU students to engage in that one evening. And it was such a great cross-cultural collaboration for the students to really work and engage with their peers. They also observed classrooms in our sport and movement studies department. And here we see some yoga, volleyball, and some kickboxing classes where the TGU students got to see what it's like to be a student in university in the United States. We also, this was my classroom, my health classroom. So the students got to see what a typical health pedagogical class looks like as well. Dr. Liang can share a little bit about this slide.
And yes, I'm very proud of the Tokyo Gakugei teacher education students to contribute to the local community, for instance. And they organized the Japanese sports after school program for one of the local elementary schools. And it was well received from the community, in particular from the principals and the parents as well. So thank you.
And then we also had the great opportunity to have the TGU students teach physical education and health at the Ellensburg High School. So it was a great treat for our students to get in there and work with these secondary students. Dr. Suzuki can share a little bit about his experience when we were having lunch there.
Oh, thank you very much. So we ate a school lunch in the high school. It was so big portion. It was very surprise. And so Japan, so we so school provided school lunch. So that's a very healthy, balanced food. But in high school, so we choose food. It's very different. Thank you.
And it was great to have Dr. Shinichiro Moriyama join us as well, as he was on the trip. And here's a photo on the bottom left with the students taking a picture with one of the local teachers, and this made it into the local newspaper. So we've got some connection, and the community here in Ellensburg got to see what TGU students are doing with our programs here. And then of course, the bottom right, we have the principal of the school who was there with the 4 TGU PE grad students. And then we also allowed the students to observe physical education in action. And this was an adapted PE class. And this was such an emotional photo because we have one of the students walking on a truss beam, and he was literally just really nervous about this experience, but he got to see icebreakers, trust builders, and just lots of these initiatives that allowed for them to just build community. And so there's our local PE teacher, Mr. Levi Teasley. They also got to observe classrooms, an English class, and even work with a local Japanese teacher here to just kind of network and what have you. They also did actual PE teaching in these teachers' classrooms, and this was a great experience for them to teach in the United States and practice what they've been learning with Dr. Suzuki and Moriyama back at TGU. They also were doing some stuff in this mat room here and actually doing some dance here. And so they actually, have this on film, but they got a chance to lead the Ellensburg high schoolers into some dances that they followed and did to music. And that was a great experience. We went to a homecoming assembly, which might be a little different. Dr. Suzuki, do they have homecoming or big assemblies like this in a high school in Japan? Are these some of the experiences that you have in Japan?
Yes, we have some, but so very few there. So
yeah, so they got to see some cultural differences there. They also went to the middle school, Morgan Middle School, and they also were able to observe science, computer, PE, and history classes in action. Dr. Liang can speak to this part here with this partnership.
Oh, I forgot to unmute myself. So, and thank you, Dr. Perez. And this is how we mentioned it before, and I'm very proud of the Tokyo Gakuge teacher education students. And they addressed the developmental appropriateness in Valleyville Elementary School. And what they specifically did is design the classes and tailor what the developmental appropriateness and collaborate with our physical education and school health students in a real PE class at Valleyville Elementary School. So here are the pictures that they show the the excitement that that the local K-2 K-5 students in the Tokyo Gakuge University students class. And thank you.
And then we also partnered outside of the Ellensburg School District. We went to the Ellensburg Christian School, where they also did some more health and physical education lessons. And here's a few of the photos where they're out there teaching fun games and interactive games. And the students really enjoyed the TGU students' presentations. Here's a health lesson that we see here, and the TGU students really having a great time in the classroom teaching health. And aside from that, we also, the students engaged in lots of things within the community and the town. And here's some photos of a local festival called Buskers in the Berg. And so students were down there seeing a local parade. With Dr. Ward, you can share a little bit about your experience here. What was this one here, Dr. Ward?
So we went around outside of Ellensburg. Ellensburg is located in a valley. It's about 60 miles wide. So we took the students to a place called Clallam, which is kind of up in the mountains a little bit, and gave them sort of a frontier town kind of feel, and they had a good time. So, and of course I shared one of my favorite coffee with them, which hopefully they enjoyed as well.
And then here's Lions Rock. It's a really neat hike site and viewpoint. And so great photos with the faculty and the students here. And then, yes, our 2 faculty, Dr. Moriyama and Suzuki, enjoying the little bit of dusting of snow. And then we also got the students to watch a local CW football game. So they got to see American football in action and actually got to have a little bit of some of the food and stuff that was there. And then with the rec program at Central, we had the students rent some paddle boards, and they actually went paddle boarding in a very cold lake. Actually even took in a Mariners game. You can see the faculty and students all here traveled to Seattle to go and watch a live Mariners game, and then see some of the sites like Seattle Center and Pikes Market and what have you. And then as we start to close our slide, this is our last photo slide here of the students engaging in some of the seagulls and stuff like that in the port city of Seattle. And I'm going to have Dr. Ward kind of close us off with some of the benefits for international service learning.
Thank you very much for listening to our presentation. What we hope that you've gleaned from this is the idea of the benefits of international service learning, both in terms of Guam, Japan, as well as Ireland. You should hear a lot of similarities. And the idea of pre-service teachers or people that want to work with kids, if you want to expand that definition, being able to benefit, the reciprocity of giving back to a community and partnering with them instead of just coming in saying we have the answer. These strategies of cultural competence are important, and they're meaningful things that our students and all teaching people can learn. Is the idea of not just going into somebody else's area or house and telling them what to do. This can avoid pitfalls and misunderstandings because you've lived it, you've been the experiences, and being there really means so much more than just reading about it. And so here's some of the research that we pulled together, as well as some of the research that we've done. And hopefully, thank you very much for listening to our presentation.
And Dr. Naoki or Liang, if there's any last parting words you want to say about any part of it, you may say so before we open up to questions.
I think we are good, and really appreciate your participation and listening to our conversation and the presentation. So here's our emails, and feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody, and thanks for visiting and listening to our presentation.
Thank you.